Welcome to the Boulder Phil's 2022 Discovery Concert, Soundscapes, Music and Visual Art. I'm Michael Butterman, Music Director of the Boulder Phil, and I'll be your host as we take a field trip across Colorado to meet three spectacular local artists. Boulder Phil musicians will also join us to perform music by Rebecca Clark, Camille Saint-Saëns, and Aaron Copeland. And remember to visit the education page of our website, www.boulderphil.org, to download a Soundscapes curriculum guide with fun music and art themed activities. And now, on with the show. Artist Koko Bayer was born in France and moved to Colorado at age 6. She studied art at Hampshire College in Massachusetts and the New School in New York City before returning to Denver. One of Koko's main artistic inspirations is her step-grandfather, Herbert Bayer. Austrian-born, he moved to the United States in 1938. Bayer was a student and then a master at the Bauhaus, the groundbreaking art school that profoundly influenced modern art, design, and architecture. During his time there, he revolutionized graphic and exhibition design and created his Font Universal. This clean, modern font based on circles and lines became the official font of the Bauhaus and had a profound influence on modern font design. Koko has created street art and exhibited in galleries across Colorado for many years. She is part of the team that puts on the Babe Walls Festival, Colorado's first mural festival for women and non-binary artists. She has been part of numerous mural festivals, including Streetwise Boulder in 2019 and 2020, and Rhino's Crush Walls 2016 to 2020. Her work has also been shown at the Dairy Center for the Arts, Boulder Public Library, and other spots around Boulder. Along with Chris Bagley and Thomas Scharfenberg, she is a member of the art group Bag Bayshaw, otherwise known as BBS. Together, they've done several immersive art installations. Koko created Project Spread Hope in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. In April 2020, giant heart murals in bright colors began to spring up on boarded-over storefronts and other high-traffic locations across the Colorado Front Range. Each heart has the word hope or love written in English or Spanish. Her goal with the project was to make people feel a little better during this difficult time. A few prints turned into hundreds, thousands if you include small prints and stickers, and we'll keep on going, she says, as long as people keep asking me to put them up. Project Spread Hope is a nonprofit pay-it-forward art project. Koko always installs her murals for free. Donations and the sale of prints and merchandise fund the project's print fund. The murals that Koko installs are made of ink printed on paper. To install a mural, she uses a technique called pasting or wheat pasting. She uses biodegradable plant-based glue that is easily removed. Most of Koko's art installations are temporary, though she does occasionally install permanent versions with a waterproof paste. Prints are printed and then trimmed before she installs them using her hands, paint rollers for the paste, and wallpaper brushes to smooth everything out. Larger installations are made using multiple sheets of paper. Colors are an important theme for Koko. Her favorite color is yellow because it spreads light and lifts people's moods. Koko likes to pair yellow and a bold magenta to create her signature color combination, Pink Lemonade. As a mural artist, Koko noticed that when these two intense colors are paired together, they pop off a wall vividly from a distance. Koko has symbols that show up in her work again and again. In art, a symbol is a real recognizable thing, like an animal or an object, that stands for an idea or emotion that would be difficult to paint. Project Spread Hope was based on two of those symbols, hearts and the word hope. Two other symbols that you'll see appear in Koko's art are eyes and hands. These symbols are part of a philosophy that her grandfather learned from fellow artist Kandinsky, representing the creative process of the artist. In this case, they represent warmth and positivity. With her art, Koko aims to add an optimistic viewpoint to the urban landscape, one that adorns the place she lives, engages the members of her community, educates her fellow citizens about major world issues, and uplifts the people around her. So Koko, I'm interested in your artistic origin story, you might say. I'm wondering about when you, I guess, first decided that art was your calling. I mean, was it as far back as when you were in elementary school, say?
When I was a little kid, I used to always make art, and I was very obsessed with photography and just mechanical reproduction. It was the era when Polaroid cameras were all the rage, and I used to grab my parents' Polaroid cameras, and which I wasn't supposed to, and like take weird pictures with them and things like that. I was definitely interested in completely different art than my parents were at that age, and but definitely I have a lot of friends who didn't have any art in their families, and so the idea of being an artist was such a crazy concept to their parents, whereas my parents definitely understood that that was a thing that you could do as a job, but that it was also a really hard job.
Undoubtedly so.
Other than growing up around with artists in my family, so I always knew that that was a job, but at the same time, that was also kind of intimidating that people who were professional artists were, in the family. And so I didn't really think of it as a possibility until I went to college and started doing printmaking, and I really fell in love with it.
A lot of your murals have, well, these two ingredients, the heart icon or image and the word hope. I'm wondering, why are those meaningful to you?
This particular project, which is called Project Spread Hope, was born out of the beginning days of the lockdowns for the pandemic. And the piece that I was putting up at that time was sort of a mysterious piece that was just, it didn't, like I put a couple up and I was like, this doesn't feel right to be putting something mysterious out into the world right now. And so I had the idea of, I wanted to do something that was uplifting. And I thought about, well, what would be uplifting? Do I need to put up pictures of kittens or puppies or something like that? And I was talking to an artist friend of mine, and they were like about this, and they were like, your palette that you use in your art already is an uplifting palette, and then the shape of the heart has this symbolism that kind of everybody understands, but it also occurred quite a bit in my art previously. And so that was sort of a natural. And then for me, the colors and the shape was enough, being a visual person. And I was like, well, not everyone's a visual person. So I wanted to come up with a word that didn't have any sort of political connotations or wasn't connected to anything other than its explicit meaning. And that's why I chose hope. But also I love that it has a meaning both in the present and the future, in that we can feel hopeful. We feel hopeful now, but we feel hopeful about the future. Right. And I've also added love as the other words that I have, and then I've done Spanish language versions of both of those as well.
Well, I think that those are great examples of art meeting the moment, in which we find ourselves, and I'm sure that many, many people have found a lot of just encouragement through the art of yours that they've been able to.
It's been, it's great when your intent actually works like good, but then it's just had this whole life of its own. And that's one of the things that's the most exciting about doing art in the public space is the interactions that people have with it. And I've had so many people come up to me and tell me stories about their interactions with these pieces and how it helped them during these difficult times. That was really humbling, really. It's like, the one hand, it's like, sure, that was my intention, and I was happy that it worked out, but I didn't know that it would have that effect on some people, to as great of an extent as it has.
Well, let me just amplify that. You have described the artistic processes, I think, involving obviously your intent, as you said, but also the perspective of the viewer adds their own meaning to
Completely.
your work. Essentially, it becomes something different.
Right. I mean, that's kind of the magic of art, and I'm sure it's something that you experience with music as well, where you guys do all your practicing and do your things, but then that listener is having, based on how they're feeling that day or other things, they're having their own experience, and that's really what art is
Right.
that conversation between the work and the viewer, and it's really it's fun to watch, and I think it's a big part of why we do it.
I'm sure it is definitely right. So speaking of intent, then you were able to honor your grandfather through Project Spread Hope. Tell me a little bit about that.
My step-grandfather, Herbert Bayer, was an amazing, multifaceted artist, and the actual font for Hope is his font universal that he designed in 1923. That was really one of the very first modern fonts, and has been imitated and sort of expanded upon by a lot of other modern sans serif fonts. And so that's really the main. And then the shape of the heart also comes from another piece of his that I've done a lot of work around that has a heart shape in it as well.
Well, let's talk just for a second about the technical aspect of creating something like this. This is a mural that appears to me, up close, to be comprised of two separate large pieces. And so obviously you had to create them separately and then put them together here. But still, they're enormous, and these are printed. Is that correct?
Right.
And what kind of a machine can do something like that?
So it started out as just a file that I designed on my computer, and then I put it into a program that helps me cut it into pieces. So the printers that I print out onto print 36-inch wide rolled paper.
So continuous roll.
Like in a roll, like a 20-pound bond, which is the same paper we would use on our printers at home. So basically I would design it, and then I send it to my printers, and they print it out in 2 panels. Then I have to go through and trim the edges out so it's whatever shape I want it to be.
Right.
And then I just glue it up here, in this case, with a biodegradable plant-based paste. I just put one side up and then carefully try and match up the center line. But yeah, so it's a really simple, it's kind of old school process, really. Postering, or the British call it fly posting, is really, the posting of bills is one of the most ancient communication tools that there were. They'd put up that thing in the town square, and that's how people used to get their news and information and stuff. And it sort of got taken up by a bunch of artists in the last couple decades who use it as a way to do street art.
Right. Well, now this you said it was put up with wheat paste, rather. So that means that it maybe won't be here forever. And as a musician, we think a lot about the fact that what we create exists in the moment. It's ephemeral. Right. In this case, most of us think of art as being something that is timeless. It will, visual art that is, it will, Rembrandt painted when he did, and we can still go and see this. In the case of some of the things you're creating, how does that affect what you create, or how does it make you feel, perhaps?
Well, when I first started doing it, it was like kind of odd that, you're also precious about the things that you create, and generally, especially when you're a young artist, you're really the only one who cares about any of them, And so, for me, it was very liberating to make temporary pieces, and I really love the process of watching them biodegrade. And my photography is a big part of the pieces as well. I'll photograph them right after I put them up when they're wet, so they have sort of a different quality to them. And then whenever I always assume when I leave them that I'll never see them again, because I've had ones where I put one up like this and it'll hail, in 2 hours, and it'll just rip it off the wall. It's like, so there is this temporary quality about them that I love. And each time I'll cross their path again, I'll re-photograph them. And I really like to watch them age. Now with the Hope Hearts, I've done it differently, and I like to keep them looking good. It's kind of magical. It's like that music. It's like it's different to everyone who hears it, and it's different in every space that it's in, even if you're playing the same. And probably even if you played the same music with the same group of people 2 hours later, it's not going to be exactly the same, right? And it's like, but that's magic, you know. And so I really like the temporary aspects of it all, and it's also sort of helped me release that like being overly precious about my art too, because really I think for most artists the part that we enjoy the most is the making of the art.
Do you listen to music as you're creating your art?
I do listen to music a lot. I especially listen to music when I'm endlessly trimming prints. I generally don't listen to music when I'm putting up these small ones. A lot of times just because I'm out in the street or wherever, I just want to be aware of like what's going on around me. But whenever I'm doing bigger pieces and I'm on a lift, I listen to a range of different kinds of music.
Yeah. For you, how do music and art bring you hope?
You know, I think that, I mean, music is obviously art, and that the power of art is to kind of lift us up and also to take us into different spaces, you know. And I think that's really the magic of music, is this ability to just take you out of the world that you're in and just take you into another space. And I really love that about it.
Yeah, it's that process of just uplift or transcending somehow.
Yeah, it's really magical, and you're not aware of it in that way where you're sitting there going like, wow, this is uplifting me. It's like you're being uplifted, and I love that. That's really that's a very special thing, and it doesn't occur that much in our lives.
These are precious experiences when they
it really is.
Well, Koko Bayer, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today, and for sharing your art with the students here and with the world.
It's been a real pleasure. Thank you for all the things you guys do. I appreciate it.
Our pleasure as well. Just like music, art can inspire strong emotions that impact people deeply. Koko aims to turn everyday places into inviting spaces, locations that spark positive feelings in anyone who goes there. She looks at a blank wall and sees its potential, and uses art to change it from an everyday space into a beautiful swan. Centuries of visual artists have used swans as artistic symbols, and references to swans can be found in all art forms. They represent light and purity, intuition, grace, and transformation. In Hans Christian Andersen's The Ugly Duckling, the main character is teased because he's different from his brothers and sisters. And after transforming from a young bird into an adult, he meets a flock of magnificent swans. He comes to realize that he too is one of those glorious creatures, allowing the swan to find a place where he belongs and heal his tender heart. Art is an excellent tool for healing hearts and creating a sense of belonging, or making a place more meaningful. You can turn your everyday locations, your room, your kitchen, your school, into beautiful swans by imagining and creating art for those spaces, just like Koko. Swans are known for their songs. In Aesop's fable, The Swan and the Goose, a cook accidentally catches a swan instead of a goose when preparing for dinner. This frightens the swan, who bursts into song. The cook realizes his mistake and spares the swan's life, all because he heard the swan sing. Many composers have used swans as the subject of their musical works. There's an excerpt in your curriculum guide from the famous ballet Swan Lake by Tchaikovsky. But probably the loveliest piece of music about the swan was written by French composer Camille Saint-Saëns. Saint-Saëns, who lived from 1835 to 1921, was a conductor, an organist, and pianist, and a composer. He wrote many famous pieces for the orchestra, but today you'll hear a work that Saint-Saëns composed for solo cello and piano. This music is from the Carnival of the Animals, which is a larger piece made up of 14 movements. The most well-known movement from the Carnival of the Animals is entitled The Swan. As you listen to us perform this piece, think about how Saint-Saëns uses the music to represent the swan. What role does each instrument play? In the piano, you might hear fast rhythms that sound like sunlight skipping across ripples on the water, or maybe like webbed feet paddling furiously below. Meanwhile, the cello melody glides effortlessly above, with all the grace of a swan skimming the surface of a tranquil lake. Please enjoy this performance of Camille Saint-Saëns' The Swan, played by Boulder Phil's principal cellist Charles Lee, accompanied by yours truly on the piano, as we watch Koko Bayer install a Project Spread Hope mural at Creekside Elementary School.